William Edward Burghardt Du Bois, also known as W.E. Du Bois, was born on February 23, 1868, in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. He was an only child and dealt with divorce and his mother's death fairly early in his life. W.E.B. Du Bois had been recognized for his pursuit of social justice, literary imagination, and scholarly research. He is an activist for social causes, advocated public action, and had civil rights agenda. Growing up, Du Bois was unaware of discrimination and racism until a student in his class refused to exchange greeting cards with him because of the color of his skin. He then realized he was different, and this realization made him want to combat racism. Du Bois lived in a time of heavy Jim Crow laws and was one of 25 to 50 blacks out of 5,000 whites in Great Barrington. He explains in his book, Souls of Black Folk, page 2, quote, "One ever feels his two-ness." He was determined to make a change and knew he had to be educated to do so. He went on to an all-African-American university in Nashville, Tennessee called Fisk University. There, he studied history and worked as a teacher during the summers. He then went on to Harvard University to collect his master's degree in social sciences. Harvard was difficult for Du Bois because the segregation going on in the nation. Harvard wouldn't accept his degree from Fisk at first, and Du Bois wasn't allowed to stay on campus past 6 p.m. After getting his master's, he went on to study abroad in Germany at the University of Berlin. There, he studied philosophy, sociology, and economics. He was the first African American to be awarded a PhD from Harvard University in 1895, and then, in 1897, he moved to Georgia, where he accepted a job at Atlanta University in the Department of Social Work, along with working at other universities throughout the next years. His efforts were guided by the belief that a proper understanding of this situation would help eliminate racism. If people only understood properly what African Americans were going through, Du Bois felt, they would appreciate the circumstances that they face and would work towards their full liberation and flourish. This belief led to the publication of the Philadelphia Negro in 1899. In Du Bois' lifetime, he wrote a total of 19 books, edited 4 magazines, co-edited a magazine for children, and produced scores of articles and speeches. Du Bois wanted to challenge the authority of Jim Crow laws and called on highly educated black men and created a movement called the Talented Tenth. Du Bois used the term the Talented Tenth to describe the likelihood of 1 in 10 black men becoming leaders of their race in the world through methods such as continuing their education, writing books, or becoming directly involved in social change. He strongly believed that the blacks needed a classical education to be able to reach their full potential, rather than the industrial education promoted by the Atlanta Compromise, endorsed by Booker T. Washington and some white philanthropists. In 1905, the first significant organized black protest campaign was created. A group of 29 men were struggling to find a place in the United States that would accommodate their meeting, so they crossed the border into Canada and created the Niagara Movement. They wrote a proclamation demanding the right to vote, desegregation of public transportation, and many other things. This movement only lasted several years, but would light up the racial equality. Du Bois went on to co-found the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as NAACP, in 1909. It's an organization to ensure the political, education, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons and to eliminate race-based discrimination. Du Bois was announced the editor for the NAACP magazine, Crisis, which focused on contemporary racial problems and how to overcome them. W.E.B. Du Bois ran for the U.S. Senate to deplete the racism in 1950 at age 82. He only won 4% of New York. Later in life, he was the chair of the Peace Information Center and called for banishing atomic weapons and making them illegal. Throughout his life, he didn't agree with other black leaders. Most importantly, he didn't agree with Booker T. Washington, who Du Bois rejected his strategy of accommodation and emphasis on industrial education for African Americans. He also didn't agree with Marcus Garvey, a proponent of black nationalism in Jamaica and the United States. Du Bois considered him a political leader who sought support by appealing to popular desire and prejudices rather than using rational argument. Du Bois' main philosophy was a mix of scientific social analysis. This led him to Marxism, the practice of communism. He states, quote, "I now state my conclusion frankly and clearly. I believe in communism. I mean by communism a planned way of life and the production of wealth and work designed for building a state whose object is the highest welfare of its people and not merely the profit of a part." He joined the Communist Party in 1961 and became a naturalized citizen of Ghana in 1963 at age 95. He died in Ghana on August 27, 1963. Immediately after his death, the March on Washington occurred that inaugurated the civil rights movement in America. W.E.B. Du Bois was a lot of things in his lifetime. He, almost more than any other, put thought into the service of exposing white privilege and worked to eliminate it in the service of a greater whole.